he should be able to get himself through the Sepulveda Pass. But eventually, as you guys know, once he gets into West LA, it's going to be a whole different story. He probably intends on taking this as long as he can, but right now, we do understand he is apparently wanted out of Laguna Beach. So if he intends on taking it all the way down to Orange County, I don't expect this to stay on the freeway for much longer. Okay.
And
Nothing.
real quick,
Check 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Go ahead, Chris. I wanted to ask you a quick question. As we look at the vehicle, looks like on the left front quarter panel, down below the headlight, it looks like there might be some damage there. Do you know of any collisions that may have taken place during the pursuit? Have police given you any indication of that? He might be having some microphone problems.
Check 1 2 1 2 1 2.
He's going to check his mic. We're going to keep a check on this pursuit as it heads 405
Mic check,
southbound
1 2 3 4 5.
from the 101 freeway, heading south through what is typically a much more crowded drive, right, Michelle, this time of day?
Yeah, it's about 10 minutes to 6 o'clock right now. We all have experienced in no rush hour traffic. Usually when we're following these types of pursuits, the individuals that are trying to make a getaway, they have to kind of weave in and out of some traffic here. But for this individual, they seem to have just a straight shot to continue this pursuit. Again, possibly a stolen vehicle here, this white Mercedes out of the Laguna Beach area that is now on the southbound side going down the 405 freeway.
So yeah, heading southbound, I'd love to see if we could use the technology on Air 7 to find out how fast he's going, because it looks like he's moving pretty good. And as soon as we get more from Chris Christie, we'll find out more about who is pursuing him, what agency, whether CHP has joined in this pursuit, are they taking part in it, and just find out a little bit more about what's involved, what agencies are involved. That appears to be a police vehicle. That's an LAPD vehicle. So that's the pursuing agency at this point, and they are really moving. You know, that Mercedes is going to have some ability to really move here. So it's leading on a very high-speed pursuit. We're going to try to get an indication of what the speed is. Good news, not a lot of traffic, but there will be soon.
And according to some information from our assignment desk a bit ago, it does look like the LAPD Van Nuys units were initially in pursuit of this vehicle. We just did see the LAPD vehicle there, and CHP apparently being notified about this. So since this is on the freeway now, at some point we could see CHP come in. We believe we can go ahead and toss things back to Chris Christie in Air 7. Chris, if you can hear us, tell us what the latest is from your vantage point, please.
Right, so Michelle, if you can hear me, we are now southbound on the 405 freeway, making our way past Mulholland in the Sepulveda Pass, heading just towards the Getty off the nose. And as far as I can see, until he gets to about the 10 freeway, traffic should remain relatively light. You can see he's got the southbound side very, very light. Northbound side is all jammed up. He's starting to weave through traffic, picking up speed, and has no problem cutting people off at 95 miles per hour. This is a dangerous driver with a possible handgun inside that vehicle. That is preliminary information, unconfirmed, but possibly has a handgun. That's play into the decision-making of LAPD as we go further along in this pursuit, and may actually be why they are continuing this pursuit, because it was pretty difficult to keep up with him earlier. At times I thought they might just let it go, especially considering that this was a GTA suspect, but I suspect that there is more to the story because they are staying on him. The helicopter, LAPD's airship, was unable at one point to stay over it because of Van Nuys airspace. They have good visibility on the suspect now, as do we. He's now pushing triple-digit speeds into West LA, coming up on Sunset, or just past Sunset Boulevard, coming up on Wilshire now, really flying down the 405. Again, I want to show another shot as we get a little closer here of the other side of the freeway and what the freeway looks like ahead of him here. It is a wide open southbound 405, and the northbound side is not moving. I'm not sure if you heard me earlier, but this is a vehicle that is believed to be stolen out of Laguna Beach. Whether he intends to make it all the way down to OC or not is anybody's guess, but traffic will not remain this way as he gets further towards the 10 freeway. In fact, that's right around where things are going to jam up on him, and about 1 or 2 miles from now. He may not even maintain control of the vehicle. As he approaches more traffic, he's getting more desperate. As he twists that wheel, he is cutting folks off and going all over these lanes here with very little regard for anybody's safety here. Those windows heavily tinted. We do not know how many other people are inside that vehicle. We think there were additional passengers that jumped out on the 101 freeway earlier on in this pursuit. But still, obviously, the driver remains intent on putting some distance between him and that primary LAPD unit as LAPD attempts to get CHP involved here. As far as I can tell, there is only that one black and white SUV behind him. There might be one more that I can't see, but right now, LAPD is making every attempt to alert the California Highway Patrol guys.
And you're seeing the traffic stacking up here. Well, pardon me, Michelle, that it's worth noting.
It's
going to get tight.
Hairy.
It's going to get difficult. The possibility of him sideswiping somebody or getting in a full-on collision or accident is really ramping up now. The speed is still high. The freeway is basically stop and go right now as if we get past the 10 freeway. It looks like he might be trying to find a way to get off, or maybe not. Okay, there he's back on.
And Chris, I was wondering, you mentioned one or two people were let off on the freeway on the shoulder. Based off of their body language, I don't know if you were able to tell, were those possibly people who were in this stolen vehicle or passengers that might have been involved in this theft with this individual, or could you tell?
That was radio traffic, although we were not able to witness the foot bail. We did hear that they were trying to track down at least one or two people who fled the vehicle. That's all the information I have as far as the passengers, but they did jump out of that SUV right there. What we don't know is who else besides the driver is left in here. But as this gets further into rush hour traffic, guys, we have to be really concerned about the ending of this pursuit. If this driver gets real desperate, we do not know the mental state of this person, and the risk level for LAPD here is amping up dramatically. They have very few options, or I should say much more limited options in the event that this pursuit comes to a termination in the middle of the rush hour, in the middle of the 405 freeway during rush hour with so many motorists in the vicinity of that vehicle. If he gets off the freeway, that's a whole nother set of problems, so I guess they'll deal with that if he does. But right now, he, I suspect, is looking for his next opportunity to get off the freeway. He's only going to want to ride that shoulder for so long, and right now, that shoulder is his only option to put any distance between him and those LAPD units.
All right, Chris, stand by.
They are right behind him, guys. Look at that. You got, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
It's all right. David Ono along with Giovanna Lara as we switch over to Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock. And Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off. Very dangerous situation here. Police are right by this guy. One error, Chris, and this could be a disaster.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, they are putting pressure on him. They're not letting up at all. They are right on his tail. And he is coming so close to other motorists on the 405 freeway. And look at this. He is threading the needle over the gore point, looking for an exit. He's going to hit the curb. No, he's sticking with the main lanes of the southbound 405. He had an opportunity if he wanted to try and navigate some of that traffic, but he didn't even think about it. He went straight for the main lanes. He is dedicating himself to the 405 freeway. I don't know if he just didn't have enough space to maneuver through there or if he is intent on getting further south, but they are right on his tail, and his behavior behind the wheel here, David, is not slowing down at all. Here's his exit opportunity. Let's see if he sticks with the exit. Coming up on Washington Boulevard, getting off in Culver City. He can go north to Washington or south to Venice Boulevard. He's going to make a right turn. Getting on the right lane, making a wild left turn towards Venice Boulevard, I believe.
Opposite
He's
direction.
going to come up on Culver Boulevard and make a right. Westbound Culver Boulevard. Westbound Culver, LAPD continuing the pursuit off the freeway, now over the double yellow lines, going westbound, almost going into oncoming lanes there. And you guys, I'm not sure if you noticed, but we did see earlier, and you'll see it again if we get another vantage point of the front left quarter panel. There is some damage on this vehicle. I have a feeling that happened during this pursuit, so quite likely that he has come in contact with other vehicles or property during this pursuit, and the driving that we're seeing here wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Now they are on Culver Boulevard, westbound, heading away from the freeway into the Delray area. LAPD in pursuit here, looking for more backup, and possibly even Culver PD monitoring this pursuit as well. They tried to get California Highway Patrol involved. We never saw that handoff take place. So right now, this is still LAPD's pursuit. They are the primary agency, and you've got two, I believe they are Van Nuys units, although that handoff might have happened. I think they're, it looks like, no, not Van Nuys. That might be Valley Traffic. Anyways, they're continuing southbound on is he on Inglewood Boulevard? Looks like southbound Inglewood.
Chris, for those just joining us, it is 6 p.m. We're starting Eyewitness News at 6, and this suspect, a grand theft auto suspect, is flying past traffic, driving terribly dangerously, and weaving through traffic. And we understand, you said earlier, but just to clarify, authorities believe that he does have a handgun in the vehicle?
That's the intelligence that they are working with. Not sure if they have that confirmed or how they have that information, but obviously the mere fact that they have that information tells you that they know a lot more about the crimes behind this caper than we do. This is not just simply a stolen vehicle. This is definitely a violent crime that they are working with here, a violent criminal potentially behind the wheel who is refusing to pull over, and unfortunately, as he makes his way further south here, he's going to head now, I think, eastbound on Jefferson Boulevard, but they are squarely now in LAX's airspace as we struggle. Okay, now making a left turn, coming back towards us off of Jefferson onto Margaret Avenue, and now he's going to look for an opportunity potentially to dump the vehicle. We went from 2 LAPD units to at least four more people, 4 more black and whites behind him there. Not sure if they were all LAPD. They look to be maybe, but look at, I mean, he is just jumping into traffic here, barely even braking to stop for cross traffic there. And again, you can now count them clearly. We have 4 black and whites right behind him, guys, now traveling northbound Inglewood Boulevard.
Yeah, heading away from LAX, and lots of traffic in this neighborhood. I'm very familiar with this area. Lots of cars out, lots of people on the road as well, walking, kids heading home. It is a terrible time for a pursuit.
Pedestrians
Never a good time.
could be a real problem as he's moving about 60 to 70 miles per hour on surface streets. And this vehicle can really perform, Chris, and we've seen that.
Oh, it's a capable SUV. That is a high-performance SUV that he's working with here, and he is putting it to the test. And unfortunately, I just don't like the fact that, I mean, he is just way overconfident with this vehicle. And even look at that front windshield. That is almost certainly an illegal limo tint on that front windshield there. Can't see anything through that front windshield. Same with the rest of the windows on this vehicle. He is blacked out. At least the windows are blacked out. But the driving that we are seeing here, look how desperate he is. Any sign of traffic, now that we're off the freeway, going right into oncoming lanes of traffic, barely stopping for cross traffic here. Here's the LAPD airship with eyes from above, 4 LAPD units right behind him. And what I was about to say was the driving that we're seeing here is scaring the heck out of me, guys. He is going to get somebody hurt if this continues the way it is. But nonetheless, they are seeing the same thing we are seeing, and they are still applying pressure on this suspect. It's having no effect, or at least no positive effect, as he gets back onto Washington Boulevard. He's going to take Washington Boulevard westbound towards Venice now, and it looks like at the very least he's slowing down just a little bit. But now he has Washington Boulevard to himself, westbound around this intersection here through the red light, and he's going to continue now towards Mar Vista.
So far, so good. People have been abiding by the law. He hasn't come close to any collisions, but you know, it's just a matter of time, Chris. We've seen him run a number of these intersections, and he accelerates. We believe it's a Mercedes GLE, can really accelerate and maneuver, and he's using every bit of that. But being off the 405, that got really hairy. But yeah, here we're showing some video on the right-hand side of how he was weaving, kind of snaking his way through traffic in a really dramatic way, going all the way to the right shoulder on the 405, and then you'll see him make a number of different aggressive moves. If you've ever been on the 405, this is near Sawtell. It's always really sticky. Stacked up, there he is snaking through traffic again. These tricky little maneuvers, and then he really accelerates with the traffic basically only slowly moving along, but we're lucky that we got out of that situation without any wrecks or injuries.
Yep, that's right. Now eastbound Washington, now making a southbound turn back onto Englewood, continuing to circle this general area. I have a strong feeling or suspicion that he might be looking for an opportunity to just dump this vehicle, just the way he makes these random turns and whatnot. But he's now got 5 black and whites right behind him. And every time he feels cornered, or you think that he might be in a position where he'll slow down or start to back off a little bit, you're right, David. He gets more aggressive. He pushes the pedal to the metal right through red lights and right through busy intersections. And that behavior is continuing as we speak, continuing through Washington, southbound Englewood Boulevard. Once again, trying to look for a spot to dump this vehicle. I have a strong feeling that's his plan here, but right now he's not finding it.
And still no word on those passengers. That there was some information that he let out some passengers on the shoulder of the freeway. Still nothing new on that.
Nothing new on that. It did appear, or it sounded like, I should say, that there were possibly 2 individuals that ran from the vehicle. What I'd love to find out is if they were able to track them down. I'm not sure they had the right resources to actually get those guys, and so they may be gone with the wind. It would have been nice, because a lot of times when somebody jumps out of the vehicle during a pursuit, it gives law enforcement the opportunity to get more intel on what's going on inside the vehicle, what is the driver's state of mind, what are the plans here, where do they come from, where are they going. A lot of questions could be revealed when they can actually track down passengers, whether they are willing or unwilling participants in the pursuit. When they get out of the vehicle, that's often an opportunity for LAPD or whatever agency it is to get more info. And right now, I don't think they have that info, but in any event, the info that they are working with is that this is believed to be an look at this, oncoming lanes through the intersection as somebody's trying to make the left turn down there, making a left turn now westbound on Jefferson Boulevard. More really wild turns right through busy cross traffic, eastbound Jefferson. But what I was about to say, guys, is that the fact that he is armed is going to really probably limit the likelihood of any kind of a pit maneuver. Not that that's really been an option yet. He's going way too fast, and there is just way too much rush hour traffic out there. But just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, because LAPD rarely ever approves a pit maneuver with a known weapon inside the vehicle, especially with all of the bystanders and innocent people who are in the vicinity of this pursuit, which is now made his way back onto the 405 freeway.
Okay.
A clear sign of desperation here as he gets back onto the 405 with bumper to bumper traffic. I'm just afraid he might start playing bumper cars with this traffic.
Yeah, this is going to be heavy traffic for several miles now. He's right in the thick of it on the 405 southbound heading towards LAX. Always a really difficult drive at this time of day in this area. So he might just exit Howard Hughes Parkway right there and then put himself right back into the Westchester area. It looks like he might be doing that right now. Or maybe bypassing the cars.
He didn't like the game of Snake he was playing in that on surface streets, and so something has provoked him to get back on the freeway. Again, the only real info that we have on this suspect is that the vehicle was stolen out of Laguna Beach. So southbound 405 would make a lot of sense during normal conditions, but in this traffic, he's not going to get that far, I don't think. But LAPD, they may have a risk tolerance that starts to weaken here, and they may just give this up. He may get away. Right now, we're not seeing any sign of that. I think, judging from what we've been able to tell, they're going to continue to stay on him, but that would be his only hope. But there's no way he's going to get all the way down to Orange County like this. It's just going to be way too much traffic, way too much volume on the freeway, with way too many agencies willing to get involved here. If, Valley CHP or West LA CHP wasn't available, certainly there is more possibility ahead of him for California Highway Patrol to get involved if LAPD decides to hand this over as he makes his way past La Tejera, southbound 405, past the LAX area. You're going to notice this picture start to become hazier, and unfortunately, that's because of LAX's air restrictions here. We are unable to make our way through LAX's Bravo airspace, and now he's getting off in the worst possible area right by the airport near Florence Avenue. That is not only going to affect our coverage, it's also going to heavily impact LAPD's airship as well. They likely will not get clearance from the LAX tower because of the recently implemented air restrictions in this area, and that has become a real hindrance for a lot of LAPD operations across South LA, and unfortunately that may be the case right here as he makes his way past Randy's Donuts. He is going to be coming closer to Manchester, but really with very little likelihood that air support will be able to keep up. So that means it's going to really come down to those ground units and CHP eventually to corner this suspect, guys.
Yeah, he took a left right there. He still has the flashing lights behind him, which allows us to basically kind of keep up with him. I guess it's difficult to tell direction right now. Is he now going away?
Inglewood. He's heading towards Inglewood,
away from LAX, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
That's correct.
Westbound in Manchester into Inglewood, and that is probably the last we will see of this suspect from up here.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue to monitor the situation. I know they're still on his tail. There's an LAPD helicopter right there, but as Chris was describing to you, there are air restrictions in place as you get towards LAX, and they're pretty strict, and this could be a burden for law enforcement. However, Chris, I know they've been pulled, they were a distance away, but they've managed to find a way to stay close enough to him. There's SoFi Stadium as well, but you can't tell anything from your vantage point at this point. He's somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there, he had 4 black and whites right on him, and I expect that the behavior that we saw near Venice and Mar Vista is probably an indication of his strategy down here. Either he's going to look for an opportunity to dump it or just go for the joyride as long as he can. He's not going to get very far. Look at the maneuvers here. LAPD with eyes on him, clearly trying to maintain a visual. Really hard work, certainly easier during the day than at nighttime, but right now he's got resources, or I should say they have resources that will continue to apply pressure. They didn't show any signs of easing up on him despite all of the rush hour traffic, but despite all of the risk factors involved, they continued to pursue him down a busy 405 freeway, now into Inglewood, where, again, I have a feeling it's just going to be a game of cat and mouse until he either runs out of gas or finds a hiding spot. There he is. Look at him. Northbound, now heading this way. Not sure what street that is, but LAPD is still on his tail, right behind him. Great job, Robbie Gluckman on the camera. Guys, back to you.
Wow, that's great work. So he's still technically towards LAX airspace, but at least you got a visual on him. And that airship from LAPD is giving you some clues that he's still out there. It doesn't look like they've dropped him yet, or he's dropped them. There he goes.
There we go.
There he is.
Making a right turn.
Is
eastbound
he on
now. Eastbound Centinela.
Okay, he's on Centinela.
Eastbound, I believe, on Centinela.
Okay. Well, at least if his characteristics, his behavior are what we saw earlier, Chris, it does look like he's just desperately looking for some place to dump this car, or some place to get out, but he just can't find it, so he just continues on his way. At least he got off the 405. That's really harrowing, scary stuff when he's on the 405 flying by people like that.
And Chris, you used the word desperate. There's definitely a level of desperation here. He wants to get away, without a doubt. Not sure that he will be able to. But just again, this is someone who is wanted for grand theft auto. The vehicle believed to be out of Laguna Beach. But somehow, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, it was LAPD Van Nuys who initiated the pursuit. Is that correct? And then at some point, he had people in the car who were let out on the shoulder of the freeway. What else do we know about this guy?
We don't know much, and we don't even know if it's a man or a woman. Quite frankly, they did initiate the pursuit in the valley in Van Nuys. Not quite sure if it was actually Van Nuys' unit. It might have been a traffic unit or perhaps West Valley, but we did hear it on the Van Nuys frequency, and LAPD has been pursuing him ever since. They were looking for opportunities to hand this off to California Highway Patrol further west on the 101 freeway, and then eventually he got onto the 405. They continued to put the call out, but there were no CHP units available in all that traffic to take it over. But those LAPD units did a remarkable job of keeping an eye on the suspect and keeping up with him despite the really high speeds, both on the 101 freeway and on the 405 freeway. He took the 405 freeway, as you mentioned, from the valley straight through the Sepulveda Pass with very little traffic in his way, speeding down through the pass until he finally hit the 10 freeway, and then it was bumper-to-bumper traffic ever since, and he has had a hard time deciding whether he wants to stay on the freeway or surface streets, but now you can see him doing pretty good speeds on surface streets as we catch a glimpse of him once again on Overhill Drive at Slauson Avenue, coming towards us once again. Great job, Rob, as we now pick up this pursuit once more. LAPD still the primary agency here, guys, as they are in Inglewood's jurisdiction. They are going to remain the primary agency, at least for the time being, and we'll see what he decides to do. He is going away from the freeway as he gets further in towards South LA.
So he's on Slauson heading towards the 110?
Slauson towards the 110, and unfortunately, there really is no freeway between here and there. It's going to be all, very, very urban traffic during rush hour here in South LA. Slauson Avenue is going to be the main thoroughfare for him, and quite frankly, I don't see any sign of him getting off of Slauson because traffic doesn't appear too rough, and anytime he encounters a red light, he just goes around it anyway. So he's got no problem cutting everybody off and even occasionally jumping into oncoming lanes of traffic to try and flee these officers. He is definitely driving in a way that's making it difficult for them to stick with this. They are not as able to freely jump into oncoming lanes of traffic with him as he is willing to do. He's willing to put everybody's life in danger. LAPD will not play that game. But if they have the opportunity, which so far they have, and you have to give it up for them, they have done a great job of staying behind this suspect. We've seen many pursuits. David and Giovanna, we've seen countless pursuits that have been given up by this point because it was just too dangerous, the driving was too erratic, speeds were too high, etc., etc. This pursuit is a little bit different. These guys are on his tail, and they are not letting up whatsoever, which again really jogs my mind as to what potentially this guy, what else he is wanted for. We are going to find out a lot more about this suspect, but it is a lot more than just Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, perhaps the word that maybe he's armed, has a weapon, maybe how do they know that? Maybe they know who he is, and that could have raised the temperature on the importance of this pursuit. Nevertheless, we've seen him, as you said, Chris, run many red lights. So far, he's gotten away with it, but it only takes one. And there he is, crossing that double yellow and continuing to go into oncoming traffic. He is still desperate to get away.
Yep, that last light was green, but the one before it, that was red. It was probably the 10th red light we've seen him blow through in this pursuit, and I think that behavior is going to continue. Just want to make sure, Rob, are they still right behind him? I have a feeling they've fallen back a little bit. They have fallen back a little bit, but they're continuing to stay behind him. They're not giving it up by any stretch, but they are definitely giving him a little bit of distance as he makes his way through Western Avenue, eastbound Slauson through Western. You saw some pedestrians crossing the street here. We're going to see a lot more of that the further east we get here. This is a very busy Tuesday afternoon. Lots of folks use Slauson, both pedestrians and motorists, although, as I mentioned, traffic is not too bad, so he could take Slauson all the way to the 110. In fact, he's only about a mile and a half, Giovanna, away from the 110. So we're going to see here if he decides to take his next opportunity to jump on the freeway or if he decides to stay on surface streets. But right now, through another red light we go, around all of that traffic. LAPD continuing, lights and sirens on, code 3 as they continue this pursuit at Slauson, now coming up on Budlong.
Yeah.
And because there's so much traffic, a spike strip is out of the question for authorities.
Well, and he doesn't do anything redundantly. Like, he doesn't take the same route so they can set up for him.
Yeah, you know, that might have been a possibility in the Venice area where he was starting to do a loop around the Del Rey area a little earlier. You know, you thought maybe if he continued to do circles, that would be one option. But that's completely off the table at this point unless he establishes another pattern. I think, though, guys, he is just making this up as he goes along. I don't think he has a real clear destination in mind. His only hope, and it's probably what he's thinking, is just trying to lose them. If he drives dangerously enough, that is, you know, a remote possibility, I guess you would say, just from, you know, if history is any indicator. But, you know, you have to wonder almost whether he intentionally got off at Florence earlier. Look at that. That scooter just coming within inches of getting wiped out by this SUV at San Pedro, eastbound Slauson, as he now looks for possibly an opportunity. No, under the freeway. Under the freeway, committing to Slauson, under the freeway, coming up on Broadway, and eventually Main Street here going southbound. No, taking the northbound entrance. He's taking the northbound entrance onto the 110 freeway, and now we're back on the freeway, guys. Back on the freeway, LAPD with a full pursuit package, now chasing this suspect on the Harbor Freeway. Guys, you've got bikers now in the mix here. They probably have no idea. Who knows? Maybe they do. But no helmets on those guys. They are coming very close to this suspect, and anybody who comes who encounters this suspect just has no idea, other than the sirens blaring, that this is a dangerous driver that is speeding up the freeway now. As you can see, not too much traffic in his way on the 110.
That was an LA moment for sure.
Watching those bikers made me so nervous.
Yeah, it had to be just coincidence. That could not have been planned. But yeah, these bikers doing wheelies with no helmets as this pursuit is going by, that is a rather infamous moment for pursuits in LA. And, you know, he came so close to that scooter. I don't know if you remember, we have seen these drivers trying to escape in the pursuit and actually run over somebody in the scooter. That was a really frightening moment that we all witnessed on one pursuit. That guy turned out to be okay, but it was traumatic nonetheless, and I'm sure he was badly injured.
Unbelievable. The traffic is
just
so
one of
sluggish.
many close calls.
Yes, but unbelievable how slow traffic is moving and how fast he is flying by them on that shoulder.
It's tough to see him, though. There he is.
He's had quite a bit of luck, I got to say. You know, on the southbound 405, I knew it was only a matter of time before he got off, and when he encountered a lot of traffic, he did get off. Likely, as he gets closer to downtown, we may see that pattern repeat. And unfortunately, as you guys know too well, he's already done one really savvy thing, and he got off the freeway in the middle of LAX's airspace, where often these guys know they can get away or at least lose the helicopter, like we almost did. We almost lost this guy, and so did LAPD. But they picked it up. The ground units never lost a visual. They've been behind him the whole time. But now we're going to get into downtown traffic, and as you guys know all too well, once you get downtown, it is where many police pursuits go to die, because that is where it is easiest to hide out. There are so many nooks and crannies, parking garages, tall buildings to hide through. Makes it very difficult for air support and very difficult for LAPD to continue pursuits and successfully continue pursuits through downtown. That is where we're heading here, and we will see just how experienced this guy is. Something tells me it's not his first rodeo as he weaves through the 2 and 3 lane here of a very busy 110 freeway. He's not getting off. Is he doing that for a reason? Does he want to take this all the way into the skyscrapers of downtown LA and try and hide out down there? He has opportunities to get off the freeway. He's trying to get further north, though. I think he's going to try and get off. Look at that. He's getting into the Dodger TFR now, so we're going to be coming to a halt here in another mile or so, but we're going to try and maintain a visual of the suspect as he continues to ride the shoulder northbound side of the 110 freeway. He's going to have the 10 freeway, and then he's going to have a number of city streets to get off at in the downtown area.
I swear, I think he touched a car a little while back. I mean, did you see that, Giovanna?
Yeah, it did seem like he did. Here, he definitely did.
Yeah, he definitely hit that one, too.
Right there, the gray vehicle. He's just so bold, and it does appear that some of the cars are moving to make room for him.
For the ones can see him, and I'm sure they could hear the lights and hear the sirens and hopefully see the lights. It gives some warning that this trouble is coming their way, but he is insistent on squeezing through. Even if there's not enough room for him, he's going to make the room.
That's right. He's made his way all the way over to the right lane, back onto the shoulder, which he has done a number of times. Anytime there's traffic on the freeway. Now underneath, not sure what street that was, but he's in the University Expo Park area as he continues to ride that shoulder northbound. I believe his next exit is going to be the 10 freeway. So he could transition onto the 10 freeway, which might be what he's preparing to do. In fact, I think he's in the transition lane right there. So that's going to, I believe, put him onto the eastbound 10 freeway, eventually into the East LA interchange, and we'll see what traffic is like. As I just want to make sure he's committing to the eastbound side. He is committing to the eastbound side. Let's go ahead and head east past downtown here as he now transfers on to the Santa Monica freeway, guys.
Yeah, that's not going to be any better traffic-wise. Sluggish in all of these areas that we're looking at this afternoon. This is the prime time for people to get home, and you know, there are a lot of people on the roads, but he's going to continue this behavior of weaving through traffic and riding the shoulder, and as we've seen before, he will just make the other vehicles make room for him.
It looks like he has damaged, Chris, on that passenger side front as well now. I don't know if that was there before, but it's definitely there now, and might have been from all that bumping into various cars that we have been witnessing.
He's
lost his mirror.
There goes the mirror.
Yep.
Yeah, he just lost the mirror, so not a hard hit, but he just lost the mirror. You're right, David. We didn't get a good eye on the right side earlier, so I do not know if that is fresh damage or previous damage. Either way, it's damaged nonetheless, and he has come within mere inches of other cars. We saw him come so close to that other scooter, but yeah, something tells me he has collided with more vehicles. Obviously, we just saw that mirror, that rear view mirror flying off here, now getting off at 18th Street off of the 10 freeway, and LAPD down at the bottom there with him as he makes a northbound turn onto Maple underneath the 10 freeway. Again, a full pursuit package, at least 5 black and whites deep, staying right on his tail. And if you saw earlier, they were pulling back, giving him a little bit of space, guys, but that is over. Now they're no more than 3 car lengths behind him. They are following at a safe distance, but extremely close, now northbound into the Fashion District, up Maple Avenue, and once again, we are in a position where hopefully he will make a right turn and move away from downtown. He's getting up towards Skid Row as he makes his way further north here, but unfortunately, that's going to take him squarely into the LA Dodgers Stadium, TFR, as that game get started in the next 45 minutes. That TFR just went into effect, so no helicopters will be able to follow him except for LAPD. LAPD can travel through that stadium TFR, and certainly I imagine we will see that. Now he has made the left turn into downtown LA, and this is going to be his next best opportunity, as we were just discussing mere minutes ago, to hide out or try and dump this vehicle.
Helicopter will be a clue, at least for you, Chris.
Yes. And Chris, I just want to share a note for our viewers. At 6:30, we will be turning it over to World News Tonight with David Muir, but we will continue to follow this pursuit on our app, ABC7 LA, and wherever you stream.
Yeah, ABC7.com. It is a very dangerous pursuit, even though it's tricky getting through downtown LA, but you heard Chris describing what is the situation, the restrictions, the airspace due to the Dodger game. But that's important that the, excuse me, Chris, the LAPD can continue to follow with their airship.
Yeah, the problem is the buildings. The LAPD can travel through the TFR. They can't really fly through the buildings and see him like obviously they normally can. Really, at this point, is going to be handed off from the air unit to those ground units. They are certainly the ones taking it over at this point, hoping to catch up with him and continue to call out the location so that airship can follow along. So you're right, the airship is an indicator of which way the pursuit is heading, but getting eyes on him through those buildings, I can tell you from experience, is very, very difficult. You can see them trying to keep an eye on him here. They've got the FLIR camera on there. They're trying to just basically follow those ground units. They're circling a particular intersection, it appears, and I'm trying to get a more accurate location. In fact, give me just a second. I'll see if I can get a street name here, but it does look like he has come to a stop potentially.
Yeah, that circling is a sign that maybe it is stopped for some reason, or maybe he's pulled in someplace. By the way, everybody, we are less than a minute away from the end of this broadcast. Again, we're going to be tossing the world news tonight, but we will stream this on our app on abc7.com or however you stream. We're not going to let this go as we continue to watch the situation. Chris, that is a clue of something. And by the way, you only have a few seconds, and then we'll toss it over to digital.
Sorry, David, missed that.
Okay, we're just going to watch this for the next few seconds, and then we're going to toss it over to digital.
Yeah, on the right.
That airship has, oh yeah, we're showing video on the right where we lost a mirror, but we are at a standstill here. Okay, we're going to toss over to World News Tonight right now. Join us as we stream this pursuit. It continues in downtown Los Angeles. We'll be right back. All right, we're back on streaming now, Chris. And have you heard any clues on what could be happening right now?
Unfortunately not. Trying to zero in on their chatter. I do not have an intersection, but what we can see here is that LAPD airship circling a particular block or potentially a particular intersection. So, you know, he was going eastbound, or I should say westbound, into downtown, and I would say for the last 2 to 3 minutes, it appears that this pursuit is now...
Chris, we have some new information. Sorry to interrupt, but we're getting word from our assignment desk that the vehicle has driven into a parking structure in downtown LA at Hill Street and 8th Street. So that is what we're getting.
So it's exactly what you said could happen, and the danger of these pursuits going into downtown LA. There's a lot of places to hide. This guy clearly knew that, and that's why he worked his way there.
We also understand the LAPD is setting up a perimeter around that parking structure, again, at Hill and 8th Street. So if you're in that area and you happen to be watching us on your phone, probably a good idea to stay away. Stay in your offices if you're still in your office.
Yeah, the good news here is that in this particular situation, if he has made his way into a parking garage, whether he's running on foot, on surface streets or inside the garage, there are enough resources down there, from my estimation, that they should be able to lock down this area pretty quickly. You can see the number of patrol cars moving through the shot here. They should be able to lock down a perimeter and corner these suspects with ease. I don't think the suspect or suspects, we don't know how many people were left inside that SUV, but I do believe that if they were making any attempt to flee the area, it is not going to succeed. Very unlikely they're going to get away at this point. Just too many cops in this area.
And many of these parking garages and buildings have security cameras. So even if you think he got away with it, they might get a pretty good look at you and see what you look like and know who you are. By the way, there's that what could someday be an iconic shot we're showing right now, Chris, and that is this pursuit stumbling upon this group of bikers popping wheelies. And you can see this guy turns around and looks at this. Who's this white car? I don't think it was any intention to be part of this pursuit and get attention that way. It's just that's just what happened.
Yeah, most likely in that case, it's a coincidence. But I got to tell you, we have seen all too often in recent months and years where you do have folks who are, you know, getting word of the pursuit, traveling in their direction, and trying to interact with the pursuit. People of all persuasions, people who are just looking for a few clicks, they will make their way into the area of a pursuit, which is obviously never a good move. But a lot of times we've seen meetups and rendezvous and uncoincidental interactions with pursuit suspects by either friends or just people who are randomly hearing about the pursuit on whatever app they're following or whatever they're listening to, usually ABC7 most often, and that's when they tend to try and again interact with the pursuit. I don't know if that was the case with these bikers. In fact, most likely I think not, but that white SUV certainly caught that green bike by surprise, the way he came up right behind him using that shoulder, really coming pretty close as they were doing some pretty daring wheelies there. They thought they had a full lane to themselves there, but that suspect, again, during the course of this pursuit, has put a number of lives at risk.
Absolutely, and we have more video to show our viewers. we have him kind of weaving his way through. We saw a lot of this during this pursuit where he is very aggressively weaving his way through this very bumper-to-bumper traffic that's barely moving. We saw him really tuck up and even hit a couple of cars. And then we have this shot right here, and you could see, watch his mirror. And that's how close he gets to some of these cars. And make note of the damage on the front end of this vehicle, and the same damage is on the left side, the driver's side of the vehicle as well. We know, I think, Giovanna, that he has hit a number of cars during this pursuit.
Yeah, hard to keep count, but you know, I would say safely at least 3, if not more.
Yeah, and that scooter, I think we're going to try to pull that up for you. That brings back nightmares of that pursuit from a few years ago where this driver just drove over someone.
That was a very close call. And you could see the guy on the scooter.
Yeah, he's like, whoa.
What?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it surprised him as well.
Thank goodness that there wasn't a collision there, but another very close call, and it could have been a disaster. So back to the pursuit, and we are in downtown Los Angeles as we continue to watch what happens with this one building that is in downtown LA that is near Hill Street and 8th Street. They have surrounded the building. He pulled into a parking structure, and then now it is either a waiting game or they're sending people in to track this guy down. But this is another thing that we haven't talked a lot about, Chris. We did some mentioning, and that is the fact that he has these tinted windows. We don't know what the driver looks like. We don't know if there's multiple people in that vehicle.
And we are just, to your point, David, we're just hearing that there was a foot bail and that authorities are looking for multiple suspects. So it does sound like there might have been more people in that car other than the driver. And again, now authorities on the ground are trying to find those suspects. Mm-hmm. We're not sure which direction they went in.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, the big question was whether everybody jumped out in the valley or whether there were still more passengers inside that car. That explains why this search is continuing. There was a last known location of one of the suspects running down Hope Street. Most likely that was called out by that air unit right there, who was probably trying to guide in those ground units. But with more than one suspect outstanding, that explains why he is still circling this neighborhood. Even if the driver was taken into custody, they have multiple people who are now running through the buildings trying to get away, and they are now very much in the process of locking down that perimeter, trying to track down these suspects who, again, were believed to be armed.
Right. Okay. So to let our viewers know, because of restricted airspace, due to the Dodger game, Chris and Air 7 can't get to the spot where that LAPD helicopter is now observing. So what we're going to do, we'll continue to monitor the scanner traffic on this pursuit as they pursue these suspects. We'll have an update for you on Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock tonight. And Chris, you did a great job on this one, another dangerous pursuit in Los Angeles.